Krishna ki jai, Shri Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Hi. Thank you, Veronica Mataji. Let's do our introduction. Prayer on page 1 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavriteshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Hare Krishna and welcome to all you dear devotees. Thank you for joining. So last week we stopped at verse 26. So we are on chapter 3. We read verse 26 last week, so we'll continue with verse 27 today. Is that correct, Paramatma Prabhu? Just somebody else verify for me. 27, isn't it? Then we're continuing with.
Shall we do the introduction in English?
Oh yes, please, Shalina Mataji, you do that.
Hare Krishna. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, Chaitanya, and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. O my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desired trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shalina Mataji. Okay, so we're continuing with 26 today, Shalina Mataji, correct? I mean 27. What verse are we doing? 26?
27, Mata?
27.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You want to read, Shalina Mataji? This verse.
No, it's okay, Mata, thanks.
Okay. Okay. So, oh, I didn't share my screen. Sorry. Let me do that now. What I was sharing. Sharing is caring. Okay. Everyone can see the screen. Right. Well, I want to do it on a slideshow. It'll be easier. $27, huh? Okay, there we go. Right. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashah ahankara viyudatma kartaham iti manyate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, the meaning: the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. Two persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He does not know that mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which works under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is a symptom of his near-sins. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna, in Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of senses of the material body, for due to his long misuse of senses in sense gratification, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. Okay, so that's a purport by our Srila Prabhupada. So in last week's lesson, yesterday we discussed the 5 important themes that Bhagavad Gita deals with, that Krishna speaks about. And the one is coming out quite clearly in Srila Prabhupada's purport here, where he speaks of material nature. Remember, we said that that was one aspect. And the one aspect was Ishvara, who is Krishna, or God. So here Prabhupada is saying very clearly that Krishna is in charge of material nature. Material nature works under the guidance of Krishna. But because materialistic people are so bewildered, they are so caught up in material life, they lose sight of this fact. And their ego is so high that it bewilders them further, and they think that they forget that material nature does not run independently, and that Krishna controls material. Okay, so Prabhupada says that there's 2 persons. At the beginning, he says, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness. They both work on the same level. To any person, it may seem or appear to be on the same platform, but it is not. Right? Material people have this big false ego, think that they are the doers, and spiritual people or Krishna conscious people know that Krishna is in charge, and they're acting under material natures are acting under the influence of. Okay. Right, 28. Who's reading this verse for us? Veronica?
Which chapter?
28. 328.
328. Okay, one. Must I read the purport?
Yeah, read the Sanskrit verse and then the whole thing after that.
Okay. Chapter 3, text 28.
Yes.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tattva vittu mahabaho, guna karma vibhayaho, guna guneshu vartanta, iti matvana sajjate. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, Almighty Arm, does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the differences between work in devotion and work for fruitive results. The knower of the absolute truth is convinced of his awkward position in material association. He knows that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and that his position should not be in the material creation. He knows his real identity as part and parcel of the Supreme, who is eternal bliss and knowledge, and he realizes that somehow or other he is entrapped in the material conception of life. In his pure state of existence, he is meant to dovetail his activities in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He therefore engages himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, which are all circumstantial and temporary. He knows that his material condition of life is under the supreme control of Krishna. Consequently, he is not disturbed by all kinds of material reactions, which he considers to be the mercy of the Lord. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in 3 different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavit, for he knows also his own factual position in relationship with the Supreme Personality. Jai Shri Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Right, so this is quite self-explanatory here again. Krishna is saying one who is in knowledge of the absolute. Who's the absolute truth? Absolute truth is the Lord, right? So one who has knowledge of the Lord being the absolute. Almighty Armed, Krishna is referring to Arjuna. It's called Almighty Armed is Arjuna. Right? This is one who is who knows the Lord, or Arjuna, does not engage himself in sense gratification because he is an intelligent person, right? He knows the differences between working for Krishna, or in other words, work in devotion, which is also referred to as devotional service. He knows the difference between devotional service and working for the results of your actions, for sense gratification. Okay. Here towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, one who knows the absolute truth in three different features, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Tattvavid. Right? A nice terminology to remember. Tattvavid is one who knows the absolute truth. For he also knows his own. So if you know the absolute truth, then you will know your position in relationship with the Lord. Basically, first you have to know who God is, then you will know your relationship. Right. Okay, next one. Madhuri Mataji, you want to try and read this verse 29. Prakriti Guna. Madhuri Mataji, you want to read this verse? Okay, let me read it.
Okay.
Are you here, Madhuri Mataji?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to read it. It's verse 29.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Prakriti Guna Samudha Sajante Guna Karmasu Tat Karsna Vido Mandan Kar Krishna Vinna Vikalayate. Sorry.
Vichalaye.
Vichanaye. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached, but the wise should not unsettle them. Although these duties are inferior due to the performer's lack of knowledge. Must I read the purport to Mataji?
If you want to, Madhuri Mataji, you can proceed.
Purport. Persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with the gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called a manda, or a lazy person. Without understanding of spirit soul, ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is the object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be religious worship, religious rituals to be worship, and they consider to be the end in themselves. Social work, nationalism, and altruism, yes, are some of the activities for which materially
are some of the activities.
Some of the activities for which material designated person under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary mortal principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. Men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotee of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kind of risk, even to the point of approaching ignorant men. They try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Okay, so now, so what Krishna is saying here, people are bewildered by the three modes of material nature, right? And the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become, so who are the ignorant people? The ignorant people are one who are not God conscious, right?
Yes.
The ones
yes.
that are not God conscious are the ignorant people, right? Okay. The non-God conscious people are the ignorant people. So wise people, the wise people are people who are God conscious. So the Krishna conscious people are the wise people, and they should not unsettle them, do not disturb whatever they're doing, right? Let them carry on with whatever they're doing, do not disturb them, but rather practice your own sadhana silently. Because sometimes what happens is we agitate people who are not interested. If you openly know people are not interested, don't agitate them. You may try and distribute a book, you may try and advise, but if you see the person's got total lack of interest, do not preach, because it's also an offense to the holy name. Preaching to the faithless is one of our 10 offenses to the holy. But here, towards the latter part of this purport, Prabhupada goes on to say that consequently, who? The devotees. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men, to try and engage them in acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So maybe in situations like this, what one can do is you can give them activities to do, like simple activities. Don't preach to them, just engage them. So if you are packing prasadam, for example, let them assist you. If you are cleaning some vegetables for bhoga, for cooking, for food for life, or anything like that, engage them. Engage them in going and just picking up a parcel of ingredients that you need for offering, or cutting some flowers that you need to offer. And by doing so, such ignorant people start getting purified. Now that is the mercy of the devotee as well, to engage people who are not engaged in devotional service. All right. So verse 13 now. Paramatma Prabhu, you can read for us.
Hare Krishna ji. The Sanskrit.
Yeah, you can start.
Can I read the English?
Okay, so let me read the verse in which we must read the
Therefore,
verse.
O Arjuna.
No,
Yeah.
let me read the verse then, because I like the verses to be read as well, right? Mayi sarvani karmani sanyasya yatma chetasa nirashir nirmano bhutva yudyasva vikate vikatajvaraha. Okay, you can read now, Prabhu. Thank you.
Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties, as if in military discipline. Such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. One has to sacrifice everything for the goodwill of the Supreme Lord, and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely on and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas, Nirashi. Means that one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of Mahi, or unto me.
Can I stop you there, please?
Okay.
At that point, let's just discuss a little bit and then you go on to read, right? So I've highlighted, if you look on the screen, a lot of salient points here in Srila Prabhupada's purport, right? So Krishna is saying here, and Prabhupada elaborates and says, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna. You cannot act independently because that is a constitutional position of the living entity. So the constitutional position of us living entities, of us jivas or atmas or souls, are dependence on our creator, Krishna. Right? So don't try, when one tries to act independently from Krishna, that's when the problem comes in. That's when the ego sets in, the false ego. We call it false ego because you're falsely identifying. And that's when people go off track and they become forgetful of their relationship with Krishna, right? And then the living entity cannot be happy independent because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Becoming subordinate means to the Lord's desires means doing activities to please the Lord. And that's what Krishna is trying to get Arjuna, was advising or instructing rather, because Krishna is his guru at that point. He was instructing Arjuna to do as he says, because that would have pleased Krishna, right? So there's a nice analogy here towards the bottom of this purport, where Prabhupada says that everything does belong to Krishna, right? And the analogy he uses is the cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but if he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in this world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme. And when you realize that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, that's when you will dovetail all your actions to the Supreme Lord, everything as an offering to the Lord, and establish a relationship and understand that that is your constitutional position. Okay. Paramatma Prabhu, you can carry on reading this purport.
Okay, Hare Krishna Ji. That is the real purport of Mahi, or unto me. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become vijata jivara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. So the nice word Krishna uses here is Nirasir Nirmamo. That means no desire for ownership, one who does not have desire for ownership. Okay. Okay. Well, that was the last one we did on the slide, huh? This is 30. I'm just going to stop the share here and I'm going to open up the next one. Because last week we didn't complete our verses. That was actually part of last week's class. Last week we went a little bit more into explanation briefly of the Vedas because it was a question from the previous week. Okay. So let's continue with verse 31, and I'm going to share my screen with you right now. All right. Okay, everyone can see that. Verse 31, still on chapter 3. Anybody else would like to read? Anybody else would like to read? Damodar Prabhu? Do you want to read?
I will, let me try.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yamimatam idam nityam anuti istanti manavaham shraddha vanto nasyanto muchyantite pikarmabin. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. Purport. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom, and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction. Without envying the Lord, there are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita, but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with a firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even if they are unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay, so persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions, Krishna says, according to Krishna's injunctions, and follow his teachings faithfully, it's only without envy, only such people become free of bondage from fruitive action. Such people are freed from the results of actions, that kind of thing. So the injunction of Supreme Personality of Godhead read. So here, further on, Prabhupada goes to say that one should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. What does envy the Lord mean? Shalina Mataji, what do you think Prabhupada is referring to here? How can we envy Krishna? Can you think of how? An example?
Maybe if we think like we have we can imitate him.
Yes. That could be one. Anybody else? Ramatma Prabhu?
I think, Maji, if you think you are more intelligent than Krishna, if you think whatever you know is more than what's quoted in the scriptures.
Yeah. one with a challenging attitude, challenge the authority of scriptures, is an envious person as well. Okay, anybody else? No other takes.
Also, maybe we can say one who does not accept the supremacy of Krishna.
Oh, sorry, you broke up. Can you repeat that? I didn't get what you said.
Yeah, one who does not accept the supremacy of Krishna.
One who does not?
Accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord.
Yes, yes. One who does not want to hear that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He denies Krishna's supreme position. He does not accept it. He's not accepting to that. Correct. There's also another one. It's very important. I heard this in class when I was studying Bhagavad Gita. One who envies the devotees of Krishna is envious of Krishna. One who envies the devotees of Krishna, one who is envious of Vaishnavas, they commit Vaishnava aparad. Those people are envious of Krishna. Because devotees are representative of Krishna's teachings. They're practicing all the time. So if you're envious of such a personality, then you must be envious of Krishna too. That's also in addition to all those answers that you gave. Is this very important point as well? So we should be very, very mindful of this as well. All right. Okay, let's read the next one. 32. Anybody else didn't get a turn to read and wants to read? Okay, you read it. Etvat etat abhat abhyas shunyanto nanu tistanti me matam sarva jnana vitu vimuttam stan vidina stan achetasah. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So Krishna is saying such people will never reach perfection. Who? The envious people who disregard Krishna's teachings. Okay. Prabhupada goes on to say his purport. The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and Supreme Personality of Godhead due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. There's no point, there is no hope of perfection for such people. Next one, verse 33. We can do one more. Anybody else wants to read? Shalina Mataji, did you read? I don't think you read. You want to try?
Yes, Mataji, I'll try. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sadrasam chestate sarvasya prakritir jananavan api Gyanavan api prakritam yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati.
Yes, very good.
Even a man of knowledge acts according to
Bhutani, right? Very good. Thank you, Shalina. Yeah, go on.
Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Purport. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, verse 14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science, but inwardly or privately are completely under particular modes of nature, which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and to try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus, one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Shalina Mataji. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. So Krishna is saying here again, Prabhupada is saying again, do not give up your duties. No one can suddenly give up his prescribed duties. Your prescribed duty is your duty. You must do your duty. But we discussed this many times before. While doing your duty, what do you do with the results? You offer it to Krishna. And that way you are practicing Krishna consciousness. Okay. And that's the only way that one may be freed from the clutches of Maya. So don't be under false pretense, give up your duty and say that now I am a big yogi. But you've just given up your duties. That's a cowardly way of behaving. Krishna said to Arjuna on the battlefield that if you leave this battle and run away, then you are nothing more than a coward. And it will defame you. People will laugh at you. They will say you ran away out of fear. So you must do your duty, but offer it to me. We have time to do verse 34. What is the time now? We've got 10 minutes. Let's do this one more. Anybody else wants to read a verse? Veronica, you want to read again?
Okay, I'll read. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Indriya Sharte Raga Devashu Veshav Vyavashtiptau Rayuna Vasham Agachit Do Iasya Paritapanatinashnahu. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification, but those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement, but one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any woman or other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother, but in spite of such injunctions, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women, these propensities are to be curbed. Otherwise, there will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under strict rules and regulations. And yet, we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them, because practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray, as much as there's always the chance of an accident, even on the royal roads. Although they may be very, very carefully maintained, no one can guarantee that there will be no danger even on the safest road. The sense enjoyment spirit has been current a very long time, owing to material association. Therefore, in spite of regulated sense enjoyment, there is every chance of falling down. Therefore, any attachment for regulated sense enjoyment must also be avoided by all means. But attachment to Krishna consciousness, or acting always in the loving service of Krishna, detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. Therefore, no one should try to be detached from Krishna at any stage of his life. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. It's a nice purport this Prabhupada gave us here. So I bolded it in red and highlighted in red font. The Prabhupada goes on to say, and yet we should not rely upon the control of such allowances. So we are allowed certain things within rules and regulations, but he says we should not rely upon such allowances. One has to follow those rules and regulations unattached to them. So it's given, you follow it, but don't attach yourself to it. Because the practice of sense gratification under regulations may also lead one to go astray. So you can become attached. So try and unattach it. And he makes a nice analogy here. As much as there is always a chance of an accident on the royal roads. So we are not perfect. We can have accidental fall downs too. So therefore, the recommendation here is to follow the rules, but don't attach yourself. And then further down, Prabhupada says, but attachment to Krishna consciousness or acting always in the loving service of Krishna detaches one from all kinds of sensory activities. So the whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense attachment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. What's this detachment? Detachment Krishna speaks about all the time. Detach from material activities if you want to become Krishna conscious. You want to become God conscious? Detach from non-God conscious activities. That's what it is, in essence. Okay, so we are now at 528. We should stop here. And next week we'll continue with verse 35. Okay, so anything in conclusion from anybody? Realizations? Let's start. Paramatma Prabhu? Realizations from you?
No much from me. I can only see that Srila Prabhupada is always talking about Krishna consciousness in all these purports, and he's giving us the encouragement to keep that up, and be very faithful in our spiritual life.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maji.
That's right. Shalina Mataji? Very good. Shalina Mataji, you there?
Sorry, I was talking while muted.
Oh, okay.
Mataji, Prabhupada has repeatedly through his books like simplified it to us, and I think he's literally given us everything on a silver platter, and we just need to take to Krishna consciousness, start with the chanting, and then everything else will fall into place thereafter.
Yeah. That's it. Hey, Veronica Mataji.
Okay, so the purpose, the last one that we read, even on the royal roads, okay, so there I feel that Prabhupada is trying to illustrate the point that even, no matter how materially, no matter how high up you are, even spiritually, no matter how high up you are, there is a chance of falling down if you forget Krishna.
Yes, that's it. Madhuri Mataji, thank you, Veronica. Madhuri Mataji, anything from your side? You want to add anything?
Mataji, just follow the rules and don't attach. Just follow the rules. We say just follow the rules and don't get attached.
Yes, very important point. Thank you, Madhuri Mataji. Modak Prabhu?
Sorry, I have no comment.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you. Anybody else? Shamla Mataji?
No, thank you.
Okay. Risha Mataji? Anything from your side? Bharti, Riyaz? Anything from your side? Thumbs up, okay. All right, so we're okay to go now, right? Let's do Nashingadev pranams. Anybody want to sing pranams today? Shalina Mataji, you want to sing today?
No, I'm good, Mata. Thank you.
Who wants to sing pranams?
You want me to sing? I can sing.
Yeah, you can sing.
Okay. Shri Shingadev Pranam Ki Jai. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Hiranyakashi Udakshaha. Hiranyakashi Udakshaha. Hilatanka Nakalaye. Hilatanka Nakalaye. Ito Nisimha Harato Nisimho. Ito Nisimha Harato Nisimho. Yato Yamitato Nisimha. Yato Yamitato Nisimha. Bahir Nisimho Vidya Nisimho. Bahir Nisimho Vidya Nisimho. Nisimha Matim Sharanam Prapati. Nisimha Matim Sharanam Prapati. Avatara Kamalavadi Nakamatputra Shringa. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Dadubinga. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jaya Jagdisha Hare. Jaya Jagdisha Hare. Jaya Jagdisha Hare. Savatara Kamala Hare. Nakamatputra Shringa. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanuvrinda Keshavatita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagdisha Hare Jaya Jagdisha Hare Jaya Jagdisha Hare Jayo Nrsimhadev 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 Jayo Nrsimhadev Jayo Bhakta Prahlad Bhakta Prahlad Jayo Bhakta Prahlad Jayo Jayo Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jai Shri Dev Bhagwan ki Jai Bhakta Prahlad ki Jai.
Thank you, Veronica Mataji. Om Namo Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra. His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Parivargacharya Stotra. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Ramacharya Srila Vidas Thakur ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veda Gadadhar Shiva Sargor Bhattacharya ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Mathura Dham Mayapur Jagannath Puri Pandharpur Arvade Kurukshetra Ayodhya Dwarika Dham ki Jai. Shri Ganga Mai ki Jai. Yamuna Mai ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Maharani ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Ekadasi Vrat. Ekadasi Mahamahotsav ki Jai. Today is Ekadasi. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Simul devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Anandavoti Vaishnavi Jai. Thank you, dear devotees. So next week we'll try and finish chapter 3. We've got like I think 8 verses left. We'll try and finish chapter 3 next week, right? And then we move on to chapter 4. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna,
Thank you,
Hare
beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mata. Haribol.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Haribol.
Mataji. Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.